Allegations against a non-binary TikToker spark violent clash online and vandalism in real life. So this is a heck of a thing to dive into. There's been a lot of stuff going on back and forth, a lot of mud being slinged. A major clash broke out online this month in the national attack against trans people when a TikTok comedian made allegations that another TikTok creator was targeting kids. Shamirun Nessa put out videos alleging that Jeffrey Marsh was targeting children, playing up the false anti-trans narrative that trans people are after your children. Marsh's content centers around embracing a positive self-image and dealing with and recovering from childhood trauma brought on by parental abuse or neglect. In her first video, Nessa stitched with a gritted teeth video from Marsh calling for people to stop telling trans people they are inspirational. Adding her comment, "Stop telling kids to go on your Patreon and chat privately without their parents," as a way to alarm parents and anti trans folks alike. One of her later posts picked out a few instances where Marsh started a video by saying, "Hey kids," and one where he said, "I want to talk to the kids," as evidence that the creator was quote unquote targeting kids, and the assertion being that kids were being spoken to directly for some nefarious purpose. I just wanted to point out as an aside here that when she stitches together those things where he says, "Hey kids," there is overlay on the video that says, "Hey kids and parents." Later, she points to definitions on Jeffrey's own Patreon about the types of trauma that they deal with as evidence that the creator themselves are a groomer. So there is a list of sort of like the trauma that people experience and what goes into that and some definitions behind it. And she points out the definition of, some of these more nefarious things that people have to deal with in dealing with trauma that he helps, that Jeffrey Marsh that they help people work through, and takes that and uses that as somehow evidence that Marsh themselves are a groomer. Nessa's video attempts to paint Marsh as a predator and a pedophile to dog whistle members of the anti-trans movement and turn them against the creator. This caused an online clash between the anti-trans movement and the trans community and their allies, our allies, resulting in death threats to both creators. The worst offenders vandalized Nessa's car and sent her terrifyingly detailed descriptions of her schedule and where her kids go to school. In the wake of this, much of the content from both creators regarding this incident has been taken down and removed from TikTok, and Nessa put out an emotional plea for the violence between both factions to stop. However, in response to that video, many creators have pushed back on this, saying essentially that she's thrown gasoline on the fire and then wants to take no responsibility for her part. There is no news currently about any anti-defamation action taken by Marsh against Nessa. For now, this is just another case of irresponsible allegations against someone causing major controversy and violent threats. And it's just very, very unfortunate that, so much of the stuff that we're talking about happens online. This is on TikTok. This is an online platform with commenting. In online platforms where there's commenting, there's so much of a feeling of animosity, of anonymity, that people use that anonymous nature to then attack people in really nasty ways. It's just something that we've seen on the internet in general for, a decade now. And it's just, it's sort of part of the whole thing, right? On the Transverse here, we get a lot of nasty, negative comments, a lot of the same rhetoric, a lot of just nastiness. But when it comes to this, when it comes to these level of attacks, calls for violence, there was a lot of, in the comments to Nessa, there was a lot of anti-Muslim rhetoric that was being thrown out there, and just a lot of really disgusting things from both sides. And, again, like I said, the anonymity of the internet emboldens people to be really nasty. We're also seeing from that sort of thing is when that happens, the community that is in opposition are being called out as being the violent aggressors. When we know, definitely in this case, that it was on both sides. So I don't know. It's sort of a weak attempt at a call to have everybody kind of calm down. It's just sort of part of what happens on the internet, right? This is just something that we have to deal with, and we have to accept, not accept, but we have to just kind of grin and bear it, because as we've seen, it's part of doing business online. But it's really terrible and unfortunate, especially when it comes to vandalism in real life. Her car was vandalized, and someone sent her like that detailed schedule of like, I know where you live, I know, where your children go to school, and that sort of stuff is unbearably terrifying. And that is so far over any kind of bound. Yes, her initial videos are calling for people to get fired up and to incite violence against the community, at least incite that, like, those verbal attacks online. But yeah, when it gets to that level, it's obviously gone too far. It seems like it's kind of calmed down with the fact that everything has been taken down offline. But again, like so many of the TikTok creators are calling her out for, the damage is sort of already done. But we'll see what comes of this. If you're not following Jeffrey Marsh and are not familiar with their content, like I said, it's usually a beacon of positivity, and it's always very sweet and comes from a very genuine place. They themselves suffered a great deal of trauma in their youth and are using their experience from that and their knowledge to help counsel others. They did say on their site that they don't usually deal with or help people under the age of 12, and that any of those cases where a minor is involved, that the parents should be present if possible for any counseling, but that they created a Patreon as a space for people to get together and talk with them without the fear of anything being made public or getting back to parents. And again, as we saw, that was taken as some nefarious purpose and blown out of proportion. So hopefully that is over.